Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're focusing on something incredibly serious. It's the escalating military standoff between India and Pakistan as things stand on May 9th, 2025.
Yes, it's a deeply concerning situation. It seems a terrible terrorist attack has really set off a chain reaction, retaliation, diplomatic ties breaking down. It's developing fast.
Exactly. We've got various news reports, some analysis, and our goal here is to really unpack how this started, what's happened since, and, what it all means.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a local issue, is it? The implications are regional, even global, especially, and we have to keep saying this, given that both are nuclear powers.
Critically important point. So our mission, if you like, is to sift through the information, pinpoint those triggers, understand the moves each side has made, and maybe think about where this could be heading.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the SMARC. It seems to be this awful attack back on April 22nd. Happened in Pahalgam, Jammu, and Kashmir, the Baisaran Valley specifically.
And the details are truly grim. Reports say 27 people killed, mostly Hindu tourists, 25 of them, but also a Christian tourist and a local Muslim resident. Over 20 injured, too.
It sounds horrific.
Hmm?
And the method targeting civilians like that, it brings back terrible memories, doesn't it?
It really does. Very reminiscent of the 2008 Mumbai attacks in its sort of deliberate cruelty. The group that supposedly claimed it is the Resistance Front, TRF.
Yeah, the TRF.
Yeah.
And they're said to have links to Lashkar-e-Taiba, which of course has a long history in the region.
A very notorious history.
So India's reaction was immediate, pointing the finger straight at Pakistan.
Right, accusing them of being behind it. And just as quickly, Pakistan denied everything, said, show us the proof.
It's a dynamic we've seen before, sadly, especially with Kashmir as the backdrop and everything that's happened since 2019 with the change in autonomy. This attack just poured fuel on that fire.
Definitely reignited those deep-seated tensions.
And the diplomatic fallout was almost instantaneous. Starting April 23rd, just the next day, India made some big moves.
Huge moves. Suspending the Indus Waters Treaty from 1960, that's massive.
It really is. Pakistan relies so heavily on those rivers. How significant is suspending that treaty, technically and symbolically?
Oh, it's symbolically enormous. That treaty has remarkably survived multiple wars. It's been a bedrock. So suspending it sends a powerful message.
And Pakistan's reaction reflected that.
Very strongly. They called it a potential act of war. That tells you how vital those waters are. Now, practically, can India just turn off the taps overnight? Probably not significantly in the short term. But the long-term threat to water security in an already water-stressed region, it's deeply destabilizing.
Right. And that wasn't all India did, was it?
Not at all. They also shut down the Atari-Wagah border crossing, kicked out Pakistani military advisors, pulled back a lot of their diplomatic staff from Islamabad.
And the visa situation changed too.
Yes, they blocked Pakistani nationals from the SARC visa exemption scheme, canceled existing visas. It felt like a very coordinated diplomatic squeeze.
So Pakistan hit back diplomatically as well.
They did. Closed their airspace to Indian flights, stopped trade completely, sent Indian diplomats packing from Islamabad.
And they suspended an agreement too, right? The Simla Agreement.
That's a crucial one. The 1972 Simla Agreement basically governs how the line of control in Kashmir is managed. Suspending that, well, it weakens the very rules and communication channels designed to prevent things from spiraling out of control on the low sea. Makes accidental clashes much more likely.
So less communication, more tension. Though, interestingly, one thing stayed open.
Yeah, the Kartarpur corridor for Sikh pilgrims. It remained open, although the daily ceremony at Atari-Wagah was apparently scaled right back. A small sign, maybe, that not every single link was severed. But overall, the diplomatic relationship just collapsed.
Okay, so diplomacy breaks down. Then things shift to the military front. May 7th, India launches Operation Sindoor. What exactly was that?
Operation Sindoor, as India called it, involved missile strikes. They said they targeted 9 locations inside Pakistan in Punjab province and Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
And the stated targets.
India claimed these were terrorist sites, infrastructure linked to groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed. The stated goal was to dismantle that infrastructure.
But Pakistan tells a very different story.
A completely different story. Pakistan reported heavy civilian casualties, 31 people killed, they said, including women and children, and they flatly denied these were militant bases at all.
That's a huge discrepancy. Civilian deaths versus dismantling terror camps. It just fuels the mistrust, doesn't it?
Massively. It makes finding any common ground almost impossible when the basic facts are contested like this.
And the military back and forth didn't stop with those strikes. Pakistan made some pretty bold claims about retaliation.
Very bold. They claim to have shot down 25 Indian drones and significantly 5 Indian fighter jets, including 3 Rafales.
3 Rafales, those are India's top-line French fighters. Has that been confirmed?
Well, India hasn't confirmed those numbers, but interestingly, a French official did confirm that 1 Rafale loss is known and it's under investigation. So not the full claim, but it does suggest Pakistan's counteractions had some teeth.
Okay. And Pakistan also claimed they stopped some incoming Indian missiles.
Yes, on May 8th, they reported intercepting 8 Indian missiles, said they were targeting military sites in Jammu and Kashmir, and importantly, claimed no casualties from those interceptions.
Then India followed up again.
Reports indicate India launched further strikes, this time apparently aimed at Pakistani air defense systems. They claimed a success near Lahore.
And all this time, the situation along the line of control itself, intense shelling.
Relentless, it seems, since late April. Just constant heavy shelling back and forth. It's causing real human tragedy.
What are the reported casualties from that shelling?
India has reported 16 civilian deaths on its side. And really worryingly, that includes an attack on a Sikh temple, a Gurdwara, in Poonch. Pakistan has reported 6 civilian deaths on their side.
And beyond casualties, what's the situation like for people living there?
We're hearing about explosions, power cuts becoming widespread. Jammu apparently had a region-wide blackout at one point. There's just a palpable sense of high alert, of fear. It's easy to focus on the big military moves, but the human cost for communities near the Lasi is immense.
Absolutely no. Amidst all this military hardware being used, one system has really stood out in the reports. India's S-400 Triumph air defense system. They've nicknamed it Sudarshan Chakra, is that right?
That's the name they've given it, yes. And it seems this May 2025 escalation marks its combat debut, its first real-world test.
So how has it been involved? What's it reportedly done?
Well, after India's Operation Sindoor strikes, Pakistan apparently launched its own response. Reports suggest drones and missiles were fired towards quite a few Indian cities.
Which cities?
The list includes places like Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, all the way across to Chandigarh, even down towards Bhuj near the Gujarat border, fairly widespread.
And this is where the S-400, the Sudarshan Chakra, came into play.
Exactly. According to Indian reports, the S-400 system, likely working with their broader anti-drone grid, managed to intercept and neutralize 15 incoming missiles and also several drones.
Preventing damage.
Preventing damage to the intended targets, that's the claim. They also say that debris recovered later confirmed these were Pakistani attacks.
So, primarily a defensive role, but did it support offensive actions too?
There are indications it might have. Reports emerged, for instance, about Israeli-made Harpy drones being used by India to take out a Pakistani radar near Lahore. An operation like that likely benefits from the S-400 creating a more secure airspace umbrella for those drones to operate under.
And the Indian leadership seems happy with its performance.
Very much so. The defense minister, Rajnath Singh, publicly praised its flawless execution. So from India's perspective, it's seen as a major success story in this crisis.
Okay, for those of us not deep into military tech, what makes this S-400 system so special? Why is it considered such a game changer?
Well, it's a Russian system made by Almaz-Antey, and it's widely regarded as one of the most capable, long-range surface-to-air missile systems out there.
And India brought quite a few.
They signed a big deal back in 2018, yeah. Over $5 billion for 5 squadrons. 3 were delivered by 2023. The last 2 have faced some delays, possibly due to the war in Ukraine and sanctions.
And what does a squadron actually consist of?
Each squadron is a whole package. You get multiple batteries, launchers usually around 6 per battery, complex radar systems, a command post, and a lot of missiles. About 128 missiles per squadron, so across the 5 squadrons, India's looking at potentially around 60 launchers and maybe close to 6,000 missiles in total. It's a formidable amount.
Wow. And its capabilities.
Yeah.
Range, targets.
It's got incredible reach. The radar systems can supposedly detect targets way out, maybe up to 600 kilometers.
600 kilometers, that's huge.
It is. And then it can engage targets at various distances using different missile types. It has missiles for closer targets, around 40 kilometers, medium-range ones, say 120 or 250 kilometers, and then the real long-reach missile, the 40N6, that can apparently hit targets 400 kilometers away.
So it provides layers of defense.
Exactly. It creates these layered engagement zones, and it can track a lot of things simultaneously, maybe up to 300 targets and engage dozens, maybe 36 at the same time. Uses sophisticated radars like the Gravestone and Cheeseboard systems.
What kind of targets can it hit? Just aircraft?
No, that's the key. It's designed to be versatile. High-speed jets, yes, even those flying extremely fast, up to Mach 14, they say, but also stealth aircraft, bombers, cruise missiles, drones, even ballistic missiles within certain parameters. And it can engage things flying very low, just 10 meters off the ground, up to very high altitudes, around 30 kilometers.
And it's quick to set up. Mobile.
Highly mobile, yes. Supposedly deployable in about 5 minutes. Plus, it's designed to resist electronic jamming, which is crucial in modern warfare. The Indian Air Force ran drills in 2024, and reports suggested an 80% hit rate in those exercises.
So putting it all together, what's the strategic impact for India having this system?
It's significant on multiple fronts. First, against Pakistan, its range covers a large chunk of Pakistani airspace from Indian territory. This forces Pakistan to think differently about how and where they deploy their own air assets. And its ability to counter ballistic and cruise missiles is a major defensive upgrade.
And against China.
That's the other major factor. Positioned along the line of actual control, it poses a serious threat to Chinese aircraft, including potentially stealth fighters and bombers. It helps India protect vulnerable areas like the Siliguri corridor.
It also fits into their broader defense picture.
Yes, it's seen as the top layer of an integrated air defense network India is building, working alongside their indigenous systems like Akash, Barak 8, and the Quick Reaction SAMs. It's about creating a multi-layered shield.
And politically. Buying it from Russia despite U.S. pressure.
And that was a statement in itself, wasn't it? It signaled India's commitment to strategic autonomy, pursuing its own defense needs, even with the risk of facing U.S. sanctions under FITETSA.
And finally, as we're seeing now, protecting key assets.
Exactly. Defending major cities like Delhi, critical military bases like airfields near the border. Its role is vital in the current scenario.
This really does paint a picture of a very serious escalation. How has the rest of the world reacted? I imagine there's a lot of concern.
Deep concern is probably an understatement. The overriding fear, always, is the nuclear risk. Any major conflict between India and Pakistan automatically raises that terrifying prospect.
So what are we hearing from key international players?
A lot of diplomatic outreach. The U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has apparently been talking to leaders on both sides, pushing for restraint. Former President Trump weighed in, lamenting the conflict's toll.
And the UN.
The Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, issued warnings about escalation getting out of control, offered mediation. You've also got the UN observers, UNMOJIP, on the ground along the Law Sea, though their role is often limited.
What about regional powers? China.
China, being Pakistan's close ally, criticized India's strikes. Predictable, perhaps. But we've also seen calls for peace and de-escalation from Russia, the UAE, Turkey, Japan. A broad consensus that this needs to stop.
Any specific offers to help?
Iran has offered to try and facilitate talks, and Russia actually issued a travel advisory for its citizens regarding Pakistan, which is quite telling about their assessment of the danger level.
Beyond diplomacy, what are the real-world impacts, the disruptions caused by this?
Significant disruptions. Air travel is a big one. India reportedly closed something like 27 airports, mostly in the north and west. Pakistan's airspace closures are causing headaches for international flights routing through the region.
And on the ground, particularly in the affected areas.
In Pakistan-administered Kashmir, reports mention over 1,000 religious schools closing. People are apparently reinforcing old bunkers or building new ones. Just clear signs of widespread fear.
And in Indian-administered Kashmir.
India seems to have really clamped down on security there. Reports of many arrests, even property demolitions linked to alleged militants or supporters. These actions, of course, risk fueling more local anger and unrest, adding another layer of complexity.
If we step back and look at the overall military picture, have things changed much since the last major flare-up in 2019?
Both sides have definitely continued to modernize. Since 2019, India's brought in things like the Heron Mark II drones from Israel, and as we've discussed extensively, the S-400. Pakistan's acquired advanced Turkish drones, the Bayraktars, and reportedly integrated longer-range Chinese air-to-air missiles, the PL-15, onto their jets.
So arsenals have grown, but the fundamental danger remains the same.
Absolutely. The core issue, the game changer, is the nuclear capability on both sides. It just raises the stakes exponentially and makes any miscalculation potentially catastrophic. That hasn't changed.
How is this playing out domestically? What's the mood, the political rhetoric in India and Pakistan?
In India, based on reports, there seems to be quite strong nationalistic backing for the government's tough stance. Prime Minister Modi has spoken about vigilance. The defense minister hinted operations might continue. We've seen trader protests supporting the government. lots of patriotic fervor online.
And in Pakistan.
A similar story in terms of resolve, but from the opposite perspective. Prime Minister Sharif, the Defense Minister Khwaja Asif, they've vowed to defend the country, retaliate forcefully. The narrative is very much focused on condemning India's actions as aggression.
Are analysts offering any perspective on the military balance?
Yeah, the general consensus among many analysts is that India likely holds an edge in conventional military strength, especially if a conflict drags on. But Pakistan's strong strategic ties with China are always a major factor in the calculation. China provides crucial support, and India always has to watch its northern border, too. It complicates things significantly.
So bringing it all together, where are we right now? What's the outlook?
It's incredibly tense, extremely precarious. Military actions seem to be ongoing, at least sporadically, like the Law Sea shelling. Diplomacy seems stalled, maybe even going backwards.
Which makes the need for outside help even more critical.
Absolutely essential. International mediation, some kind of off-ramp, is desperately needed to pull things back from the brink. Especially, and it bears repeating, with the nuclear shadow looming over everything. The next few days feel absolutely crucial for determining whether this escalates further or if some measure of calm can be restored.
This has been a vital deep dive, really trying to get a handle on a fast-moving and dangerous situation. Let's just quickly recap the main threads. We started with that horrific terrorist attack, the Spark. Then we traced the rapid diplomatic breakdown, treaty suspensions, expulsions, followed by the military escalation, Operation Sindoor, the claims and counterclaims of strikes and losses.
Right. And we spent some time on the role of technology, particularly the S-400 system, and how it's factoring into both defense and potentially offense in this crisis. And we looked at the global reaction, the widespread concern, and calls for restraint.
So the final thought to leave our listeners with, considering everything we've discussed, the capabilities shown, the deep-seated tensions, the nuclear dimension, what does this mean long-term? For stability in South Asia, for the future of India-Pakistan relations?
It's a profoundly sobering question, isn't it? And what role does technology ultimately play here? Can systems like the S-400 provide stability through deterrence? Or do they just raise the stakes and make conflict even more destructive if it happens? Could technology even offer paths towards de-escalation, perhaps through better monitoring or verification?
Lots to think about. It's a complex web, and the situation remains on a knife edge. Thank you for helping us unpack it today.
Thank you. Let's hope for de-escalation.